So this is an investigation, sadly, that they continue to look for this missing woman, and it's a story that continues to generate headlines because it's one of those stories where you don't have a lot of answers.
That's just so tragic for the family. It's just a tragic thing.
It really is. And, you know, in stories like this, you just go...
What do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, you say some prayers, and, you know, the police are doing their best to respond to all of the tips, you know, even the ones that I think they know aren't so legit.
Right, right.
But you have to respond, because what else do you have to go on?
That's right. I mean, that's a really sad reality. I mean, because, you know, people are missing every day, you know.
I was going to say, not every missing person turns into a TV story.
Exactly,
but
that's the thing.
But even when they do, which sometimes is a benefit because it speeds the process up, because the news cameras are there. But for the poor family who never in their life had they don't want to come out of their door to get the newspaper and have to talk to a TV crew.
That's right. And like, you think about all these small children that are missing. I mean, there's an organization, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children,
John Walsh,
that's in Virginia. That's amazing. And, you know, there are kids just missing.
Every day.
Missing, every day. From the bus stop, from preschool, and you just think, how, as a parent, can they even go on?
A lot of them, they will say, are just abductions or disappearances linked to a family dispute or some type of domestic situation. But a good percentage is a stranger abduction, you know, and there are so many stories that just don't go, that are underreported or don't make the headlines.
Well, you know, John Walsh, it's like 35 years ago now. When I met John, took a car ride with him from the hospital that he was checking out of. It was the third time he had been in the hospital for exhaustion on the way to the airport. This was in D.C. I was just amazed by his passion. It was all driven by that tragic story of his son.
Yeah, he was just a little boy.
Just a little boy. That's like a little picture with the baseball bat. 7 years old, that's right.
And you think, okay, so what are you going to do?
He channeled that energy, that sadness, into something amazingly positive. I don't know, you know, if I could have that resolve or wherewithal to move forward, but certainly he has done an amazing job to make a difference in searching for children who go missing.
Well, you've got to give him credit for channeling that terrible, tragic energy into a positive
thing. And helping
thing.
to get legislation passed to make it, you know, for tougher laws in terms of background checks.
Amber alerts and things, which are really a big help.
Exactly.
Because it's that instantaneous. You know, all of the detectives will tell you it's that within those first 3 days that are crucial. Because pretty much after that, things begin to go downhill. They also tell, they train the kids, you know, never get in the car.
Well, that's the other thing I was going to. What do you think about some of the things like that? You know, when you hear about these stories, and you know, kids that are being warned how to respond to strangers who may approach them. What is that? Scaring them?
You know what? I live in a very, quote-unquote, affluent zip code. When we moved there, this was 13 years ago, there was a few on my street. One of the first days I was there, that they were doing a live remote in a very affluent zip code. It's necessary. They need to teach kids this.
You know, this is you know, Eric's saying the affluent zip code. They're everywhere.
Well, no, I'm saying there's no excuse, period. Kids need to be taught.
But that's my whole point, because, you know, there's the websites now. I can't remember the name of it. But you type in your zip code, and a map comes up, and it tells you where they're living.
Sex offender registries that are out there.
They're everywhere. They are everywhere. In the best zip codes, in the worst neighborhoods, they're everywhere.
You can find out, you know, if somebody's living near you. If somebody who's already been convicted and, you know, now has served their time, and now that they're, you know, trying to assimilate back into society.
But the problem is, I think, the language of what my parents told me when I was growing up in the 70s, that language is different now. Because you can't necessarily assume that a policeman is going to help you.
Well, that's the thing. Are you scaring children? How do you build trust? I mean, that's another thing. You know, there are all kinds of discussions underway about how best do we prepare our kids for this type of, I think, unforeseen, possibility.
I think at least what we do in our family is we have conversations about it, and you know, we use examples. Now, you know, that wouldn't, you know, this is an example of where you would not want to talk to that person. And we do our best. I mean, you know, hopefully a tragedy like that never has to happen, never happens. But I would like to equip my children with the kind of like an automatic response in case they are approached by someone.
But there's things, I mean, as we grow up, and like you know, growing up in New York City, you would become very intuitive about what was going on all around you. You just would. You develop that sense. I mean, pre-Giuliani, New York City was a different place to be when you were younger. And I think that you know, that's not a bad skill set to have, period, for kids.
Right. I grew up in a very small town. And so we could leave our doors open at night. But luckily, since my mother was from a larger city, we would spend our summers and holidays there. So I developed an awareness. But I think, you know, kids have to develop that. We have to teach them that, you know, if I'm not there at pickup, you need to wait.
But you know, I mean, even you look at, like, because you mentioned you were Canadian, my wife is from Toronto. You know, in the 70s, maybe even in the 80s, you didn't have to lock your door. And they used to talk about how bad American cities were. Now Toronto, same thing. You got to lock your doors now, and there's homeless.
And now in Toronto, you're not taking the subway at 1 and 2 a.m.
Well, it grew up, it became a big city and had all the problems that big cities in the United States have.
Whereas when I was growing up there with my cousins, we would take the subway at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, you know, but with the bigger cousins, of course. It was fine. Now you cannot do that. You just absolutely cannot.